the Holy Spirit. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Good afternoon, everybody. 12:37. It's a strange time to be having a fireside with fathers, but I've decided to ambush both of my parents because they're leaving tomorrow. And as of now, these are some of the most favorite podcasts. Mom and Dad, Anthony and Andre, who are off camera. They're behind the camera, and we've told them that they can laugh and comment all they want. They won't be picked up. So, Mom and Dad, you guys have been here for almost a week. And I've been thinking in the back of my head to have you sit down in the house and we can just have a laid back, normal conversation as if there's just cameras in front of us, but it doesn't have to, we don't have to think that.
Okay.
And I mean, the idea is that hopefully we can provoke and come out with some life experiences. I'm going to do my best to prompt. And this way we can edify, help people who are watching. Like I said, there probably been 3 interviews that we've had. I think I've done 1 with Dad and 2 with Mom, I think. And like I said, people have been saying these are the best ones. They're not the ones that have gone the most viral, but they're the ones that people have been most edified, and you guys have a lot to tell. So someday we'll probably write a whole book. Father Colin wants to record you guys speaking from like your first memory until the current day, and he's going to write it into a book, embellishing it. So your microphones are going to work. You're going to have to put them into your mouth. I was going to just start maybe with Dad.
Good idea.
Yeah. So Dad, let's say when you were, well, first of all, you come from a family of how many children?
There are.
Microphone up.
I come from a family of 11 children, and I grew up on a small family farm in Vermont. And I've told my children the story, some stories of my youth as a child, and I've said that I started milking the family cow at 6 years old, and they all looked at me and said, "Dad, pick a number that's at least a little credible." And I said, "No, I started milking a cow at 6 years old," and that's how life was back then. And yesterday we went out to dinner with a local family, and they're agrarian people, lovely, lovely people, and the dad's a second generation or third, or maybe I don't know how many generations back farmer. And they were entertaining us sort of with stories, and they said we started milking cows by hand at 7 years old. And I wanted to put it on camera. See, I knew I wasn't making that up.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, back then that's how it was. But I tell that story because it was a very simple lifestyle, a very warm lifestyle, a very Catholic lifestyle that I grew up in.
So, like, okay, you had older brothers. They were probably out, obviously, working with you as well. So you were kind of, at a younger age, already hating reality, getting cold, and getting up early. Things that are probably lacking in this, I'd say, this generation. Mom, you're what number of 7?
Yes, I'm one of 7. I'm right in the middle. I'm the 4th.
Number 4.
Got along with the uppers and the lowers very well.
Okay.
Peacemaker.
The middle child. And what was your memories, your early childhood memories, or just growing up?
I have very fond memories, early childhood memories. I was a very happy child. I just, I don't know, it's almost like I lived in another world. I had imaginary playmate. I mean, I did live in reality, but I did have a lot of interaction with my imaginary playmate, my siblings, my mom and dad. We just had a very kind of peaceful home life, except for when we had to clean the garage out. My mom would go on a bit of a rampage. So we did have the negatory as well, but fairly disciplined. And so the early years were very good. Um, as life went on, there were some rocky roads.
Do you guys have memories of growing up in a faithful family as far as practicing the faith?
Well, I do. I went to a Catholic school, and we had so we were taught by sisters, and we belonged to St. Luke's Parish. My dad was very active in the parish. I think my parents were both very a good example for us. But in the '60s, when everything changed, it was very hard for them. It was really hard for them, the whole transition, and having the altar turned around and just all the new changes. It was very challenging. But we went to Catholic school and practiced our faith.
Yourself, Dad?
Uh, Faith was very, very important in our family. Two of my father's brothers were Catholic priests, and the older of the two, he was very regimented and very to the law. Everything was the law. And the younger of the two brothers, Father Mike, I asked him once when I was a young man and looking for what direction God might be calling me. I asked him to share his vocation story with me, and he said, Andy, it was very simple. He said, I loved my older brother, and he was a priest, so there was never any other direction in my mind. I wanted to be like him. And Father Andrew, the older brother, he died at 50 years old from a heart attack. And Father Michael, he lived to be 93, and he died driving back from a nursing home, taking care of the old people. So his whole life was filled with service and joy and beautiful witness to our family and for the church.
I remember you telling me when, well, Mom was saying there, like in the 60s, when things kind of got getting crazy, you guys had Father Andrew, was it, as your reference? Do you remember, like, when Humanae Vitae and those things were coming out? If someone were to, like, let's say, start living with somebody, and you weren't sure if that was okay, you'd have him as a reference, right?
Yes, I have many stories of the cultural wars that were going on in the 60s and 70s. My father had a very, very difficult time adjusting to the change in the Mass, changing from hearing the Mass and responding to the Mass in Latin to being in English. And one of my older brothers, at about 20 years old, said to my father, Dad, I'm going to be moving into an apartment with my girlfriend, Chris. And we're going to be doing this and that, and would you help us out with first month rent? And I'll never forget this moment. My father looked with a blank face to my older brother, and he said, I believe that's wrong. Yeah, no, I believe that's wrong. You can't move in with your girlfriend until you're married. You call Father Mike right now, and if he says it's okay, but I think it's wrong. And so, needless to say that the conversation didn't go well for my brother when he called Father Mike. But that was the change in the church and the change in our family that you would even ask those questions out loud.
I think the change was very hard for my parents as well. And I was young for Woodstock. You probably know what Woodstock is.
You were too young for Woodstock.
Too young for Woodstock, but not by a whole lot.
Did any of your older siblings
Well, my
go?
older siblings didn't go, but my brother probably would have gone if he could have. There was quite a bit of rebellion that was happening in my family. My parents were just sideswiped. Had no idea that the culture could change the way it was, and I think it took a toll on my mom, because I think years later she stopped going to confession because she didn't think we had to anymore. things changed so
Is that something
dramatically.
she just heard from the pulpit?
No, first she'd been yelled at once when she had sick kids at home, and so she had missed a mass, and the priest really yelled at her and reprimanded her in confession. So she didn't go back. She wasn't likely to go back, but then it seemed like nobody went to confession.
Okay.
It just was everything
It was an
changed.
easy excuse
The
not to go
music
back.
changed. Everything changed. We didn't have to pay seat money anymore. You know, there was a lot of things that changed
Seat money, that's if you like for your pew, you had to pay
for your
the-
pew. Yeah,
I never
yeah,
heard that.
yeah.
And as far as your adolescence, Dad, did you hit a rebellion patch? I mean, did you go to Woodstock?
No, I did not go to Woodstock. I was too young for Woodstock, but my older brothers did go to Woodstock. But my personal experience and the personal effects of the culture war of the 60s and 70s, I have four brothers. One is younger and three are older. And I was about 13 years old, and life was going on normal for me. And my father came up to me, and he was so upset. He was angry, and he looked at me and he said, "You do whatever you want. No more night curfews. You come home when you want. Do whatever you want. You're going anyway. Your brothers, they all belong in jail. You know, you can't control them. They're just out of control." And he was so upset and felt so helpless. And I was so taken aback. And I didn't have the inner fortitude to see the right path on my own. And so I took him on his word. I started coming in late and got involved with the wrong crowd. And in my teenage years, I was a bit out of control. And found myself resenting my father for not putting these boundaries on me, for me, to help me through a period in myself when I just didn't know what I could do and what I shouldn't do. And even though I had a sense of it from going to church every Sunday, I never lost that. But I felt really alone and out of control.
I think I went through a rebellious stage as well. I know I did. And we had lived in Connecticut, grew up there until junior high school, and then we moved to New Hampshire, which was very rural and really kind of years behind what was happening in Connecticut where we had lived because we just lived in a suburb of New York City. So, but
Keep going.
so anyway, I did get I got I got involved with drinking and some my kids are here, so
You're all right. Don't worry, you don't have to.
no. But we got involved with some things too. We would skip school. I was a very good student, so it didn't. My grades never dropped. But also kind of the same thing probably as you, just sneaking out at night or just
I never
going
snuck.
going to parties.
You
Right,
didn't have
'cause
to sneak
you
out.
had permission. Yeah. So it was a challenging time for us, and yeah. So anyway,
And was there, okay, there's a moment here, Dad, I'll go to you. Did you hit a moment where, we're going to go back to what you said about the boundaries, but where you kind of started getting inspired to do something or to kind of, because there's always a moment where we kind of get more responsible or more mature and maybe want to do something else. Did you want to be something or somebody?
Well, I was very I was very disconnected with school. I never felt pressure to do well in school. I never felt pressure to work hard. I didn't have any dream to begin with. And then my second year of high school, I went to a guidance counselor and I said, I think I might like to go to college. How do I do that? And he said, well, you got to start applying yourself and you got to start taking different courses. So I did that. I didn't work hard, but I was at least in the right trajectory. But toward the end of my high school career, what I had gotten very good at was I've gotten very good at the drinking and partying and the irresponsible side of what can be high school life. And I was desperate, and I felt very, very terrible about myself. And I owned a car, not a very good one, but a car, and there were about 4 or 5 young people with me, and there was drinking going on and such. And I drove up to the church parking lot, and I got out of the driver's seat. I was driving, and I told the boys, I said, "You can have my car for the rest of the night. I'm going to stay here." And I remember being in the church parking lot, and I said, "I got to pray." I could not remember Hail Mary, could not pray the Our Father. I had no prayers in my mind, and I couldn't draw anything up. And I felt black, like I was desperate, and I was alone, and that I was going to lose my soul. And I felt the warmth of Our Lady, and the presence of Our Lady, and I felt in my heart, she said to me, she said, "I'll give you the act of contrition, and don't you ever forget it." And I prayed an act of contrition out loud, word by word. And since that day, when I go to confession, I put myself back in that moment, and it's almost a moment that I'm reporting. And I said, I'm still sinning, I'm still falling, I'm still broken and fragile, but I remember the act of contrition. And after I prayed the act of contrition, I was able to remember my other prayers. And it was soon after that that I went to a guidance counselor at my high school, and I said, "I think I'd like to become a priest." And he looked at me and he said, "You cannot become a priest." And I said, "Well, I kind of feel like I'd like to." And he said, "Well, you go to a different college, and you get through the different college, and if you still feel the same way, then you start walking in that direction." And so I did. I went to a military school that was in my hometown, and I went there because I got free tuition.
It's Norwich. You
No.
got free tuition because you're from there. You're local.
Oh, because I'm local, and because my mom worked there, and so I had
Which is it has prestige as a Norwich would be a good.
as a what?
It's a prestigious.
Well, it's the oldest private military university in the country.
There's prestige there.
Yeah. And so I went there for 2 years, and then I applied to go to a seminary. And,
2 years in Norwich,
2 years at Norwich.
just like a core kind of.
Well, I was unhappy there. I was very unhappy there. Norwich is in my hometown, and there was so much history. Been in my hometown for 150 years, and the cadets always got the prettiest girls and had the money and nicer cars.
So the locals didn't really like the guys who were at Norwich.
The locals were at war.
And so now you're in there and you're a local.
And I'm a local, and I'm also a Norwich cadet. And so I lost my friends, my pseudo friends that I had grown up with, and also never really felt like I fit in
Okay.
with the military side of life.
Mom, your moment, did you get a moment there of inspiration as far as wanting to kind of get more into something serious or wanting to be somebody?
Well, I have to filter a lot of things right now.
Okay.
My late teens, and so I graduated high school early because I had enough credits because of Connecticut, and I went to college for a year, and that I really wanted to study. I really wanted to study, wanted to learn, to go away. I wanted to go away to school, but my family was kind of, everybody needed to stay home and stay around, And so it was a local college I had gone to, and my dad, I applied to other schools. I got into some other schools, but he said no. And so I think it just kind of tipped me the wrong way. I became very isolated. I did not have any friends. I stayed home. My mom was my good friend all the time, and I just was depressed. And my parents, I had depression off and on, but I don't think my parents really knew how to deal with it. And one day my dad brought home a bottle of called Cope, COPE. And this is when we were still living in Connecticut, and I was in elementary school, I think. And he said, you just take one of these a day. It was just like, I don't know, probably antacids. I don't know what it really was. And but that was the best that they could do. And I mean, because I would skip school and stay home just because I could. But I became very isolated and insular. So eventually, going into my 20s, I did not graduate that college. Instead, I got wild and crazy and married a guy that was 10 years older than I was. And he was a big, kind of hippie and into drugs and all kinds of things. Had a baby, and she was born 2 weeks before my 20th birthday. And the guy was not good. He was a bad guy. So he was, he was violent. He was one of those guys that you don't marry.
Did you get married?
I got married.
In
Yeah,
the church?
in the church.
Did
Yeah.
your parents go?
Yeah, they did come. They wanted me. I was pregnant, and they wanted me to go away to Ireland or England. So I said, "Go away for a while. We're not ashamed. We're not embarrassed. We want to take care of you." And
leave.
because I had a sister that was going to school in England, and I couldn't do that. In fact, I got married because I felt guilty, like I should get married. And my parents really tried to persuade me not to marry the guy, that they would take care of me. And they were right, but I just couldn't see it because I felt too guilty. So anyway, that was a very disastrous marriage. He was violent, and I worked 2 jobs. He went to college, which he was like a perennial student, but never quite graduating. And it was very hard. And so I finally had enough courage to, after a very bad incident with him, to leave. And my parents helped me. My mom bought a house, and I lived with 2 of my sisters. And I left him, and then found out that I was pregnant. So I had a second child by him, but didn't want to, I felt if I didn't put him down on the birth certificate, then maybe my son would have more freedom. But again, kind of being raised to do the right thing, I did, and it was disaster with him for years. So eventually what happened is I did go through some serious depression after my second child was born. And I ended up being a little bit more than postpartum blues, and I was hospitalized for depression. And at that point, my parents were saying, wait, we actually pull ourselves up by the bootstraps and just get on with it. But I couldn't do that. The kids were taken care of. The oldest 2 were taken care of. And I just, I was hospitalized a couple of times in my 20s and was put on a lot of medication. It was quite the journey. I look back at my 20s and I don't care for them at all, except that for the first, my babies. And I went and got a job I moved away from my folks, and I got a little cottage and got a job at the Vermont State Hospital, working with institutionalized developmentally disabled adults on a locked unit. And that's where I met Dad.
Was Dad in the unit?
I didn't know. When I first saw him, I actually saw him walking across the day yard because we used to, nobody wore uniforms, and he was really handsome. And I just said, oh my gosh. I said, Gail, get a grip. We have the Bs, that's what's for the criminally insane. We have the mentally ill unit, and we have the unit I worked on. Well, I knew he wasn't on that unit. So I had to not be attracted to him.
Dad, what were you doing there?
I was there because I went into the seminary. I was accepted in the seminary, and I went.
Can we
into
know
this-
where it was or no? I never actually knew where exactly.
Isn't that amazing?
I make things up when I tell the story, but I don't know exactly the right seminary.
Yeah.
St.
Well,
John's.
it's a very fancy. No, it's a very fancy name. The Pontifical College Josephinum, and it was established in around 1860, 1870. I can't remember exactly now. And its origins come from a German priest, an immigrant German priest, came to Columbus, Ohio, and he started an orphanage for young boys of German descent. And he gathered about 20 or 30 German boys, and he didn't get along with the local bishop very well. And it must have been Providence, but almost all of those young German boys had vocations. And so he got special permission from Rome to start a seminary.
That's why it's pontifical, because
And
it's
it's pontifical, the only one in North America that is directly and under
it
the
goes.
Holy
It just
See,
answers directly to Rome.
directly to Rome.
Wow.
And I kind of poked fun at its origins, but it was a fine seminary for the times. And
How old were you, Dad?
I was 20 years old because I had done
You
2
2
years
years in Norwich.
at Norwich, the military school, and then I started at the Pontifical College Josephinum
In Ohio.
in Ohio, which
Okay.
is
So I'll look into that now.
yeah. And anyway, I was there for a year, and I was most unhappy. I was just terribly, terribly unhappy, and I struggled with the academics because I went into third year college seminary, but the 2 years I had at Norwich didn't really prepare me for that.
Oh, so you started right away the third year of philosophy.
Third year because I had 2 years that I got C or better at Norwich, which was great grades, but they were passing. So that was trouble for me, and I was unhappy. And so I had a really lovely priest come, and he told me, he said, Andy, you're the most unhappy person, I think, on the planet that's following God. So what do you think is a job or doing something that's following God? What do you think God's work looks like? And I said, I don't know. So he said, why don't you take some time to figure it out? And I went home, and I looked through the want ads, and there was this job to work at an institution with very, very desperate people.
But you're in Ohio looking for.
No, I left Ohio.
You went home,
I went home,
and
and
this is the same. What's this hospital called?
it's called the
Elizabeth.
Vermont State Hospital, and that was its formal name, but it was for people with.
So you providentially ended up there, Mom, and Dad saw this in the want ad
And I went there and went to work there for 6 months.
to work with broken people.
Very, very broken people, the most broken environment I'd ever encountered in my life.
I've gotten the story wrong. Then I'll have to fix
It-
that.
Was an institution that you would read about now or see films that might have been shown on the old institution where people are they're naked and they're on the floor, and they're all locked units,
Oh my
and
gosh.
it was the turnover rate when we were there was 300%. You got a job there and you didn't last more than a week.
Oh gosh. yeah.
It was very violent, and
Shutter Island.
it was hard.
And
Yeah.
so you, from up on the balcony, romantically see Dad like walking through the square.
I was very
Did you
actually
have
very sweet.
like sideburns and an afro? What year is this?
I don't know
What
the
year
years.
is this?
I don't know
I can do the math. I think it was 1979.
Oh wow. So you did have a bit of a.
So with
Well-
the unit that we worked on was divided by men and women, and I worked on the men's unit, and so they were institutionalized, developmentally disabled men, and he worked on the women's unit. So we
Why
didn't.
would they put you in the men's unit?
Well, that's where I got a job.
Wow.
It was
That was the need of the day.
that was the need of the day, and so I was afraid.
Yeah,
I
you're
was
20 years
afraid.
old and you're
I was
working with
afraid.
psychopaths.
But I had
men.
2 children. I was a single mom. I needed a job. I tried to get a job in restaurants in Burlington, Vermont. I couldn't get a job. There was no jobs. So this was the only job I could get.
And Dad, you're working in the women's unit. That's a bit dangerous as well, isn't it?
Well, it's all dangerous, and I instead of getting an apartment, I did the math, and the math didn't work for me. You work all week, and you got just enough money to pay for a bad apartment and eat little. And I said, no way. So I pitched a tent up in the woods next to the hospital, and I lived in a tent, and I ate hospital food, and I saved my money, and I met Mom, and I really thought that I might.
Dad met me. We had to do coverage at a medical hospital for a young woman who needed corrective surgery, and so it was very tragic. But in institutions, people often would sit with their legs out sprawled, and so her legs grew that way. So it was experimental surgery, really. They broke her legs and straightened them out, put her in a cast, and she needed somebody with her 24 hours a day. So I signed up, and Dad signed up. I came in and relieved Dad on the night shift, correct?
Yes,
And you didn't go home.
I didn't go home.
I was
I
shocked
gotta
to
go
see
home
him.
to my tent.
You
Might
had
as well stay
seen
and
each
talk to
other
him.
by like from the distance at this stage.
I'd seen him.
You had been seen, and
I
Dad was
had
probably
seen him.
unaware. Were you aware of Mom?
Oh, I knew she was there, but I didn't have any relationship
So she's just
at all.
the one that kind of comes in to substitute you.
Yes.
You go to sleep in your tent, and you're like,
No,
I'm
he actually
gonna
didn't leave.
No, but I'm saying he
Right.
says, I'm going to stay here.
Yeah, I stayed there. Yeah.
So,
But anyway, I had this really inclination that there was a future between Mom and myself, but I was totally 100% committed in my heart and my mind to go back to the seminary with a vision of what it meant to work for God, and I was going to finish, and so I
Oh.
did. I worked there at that hospital for 6 months, and then I reapplied and was accepted to re-enter the seminary.
So
Yeah,
we were
so I
good.
did.
We were good friends, and we consider ourselves friends. And I stayed there for 3 years till the end of
But
the
you
program.
liked him.
I thought he was handsome.
You liked Dad. Dad, you liked Mom, and you're kind of like, I'm going to be a priest.
Well, I was going to finish seminary.
Yeah, but you're
What does
not
that
telling
mean?
the whole story.
Well, you're not telling the whole story too, because I think you feel bridled because you got a lovely daughter and son, and this is
Anthony and
going out to
Andre.
God knows who, and not everybody gets an opportunity
To just-
publicly to tell barely just lay it on the table. We all love Jesus now, so it doesn't matter.
All right. The other part of the story is I had married again, and
Married.
I had
Married again.
Did you
Not-
get
not
the
in the
annulment?
church? No, not in the church.
Oh,
No,
okay.
no. I married
You got
somebody from a restaurant, and we should always have just stayed good friends. So we had moved closer to Burlington, Vermont, because he was going to go to school, and it turns out that he was gay, and
Oh my gosh.
decided he was going to.
Dad.
You see,
All right, I'm trying to say.
That's
So he
a-
was. he was
life's
gonna-
colorful.
Life is, this
When
is,
you
I had a
speak-
different version of this story.
Yeah.
This is
Anyway.
actually better.
So he decided to pursue that, and I was a single mom again, and so the night that Dad I came in to relieve Dad, he stayed all night and chatted with me, and so yes, I did think I was actually attracted to him, but I was not available, and it was just
Look, you're
too
in no
much.
position.
No
you just started
position.
breaking up with a
No,
gay man,
no.
and
and I was in no position too, and I
Right.
said I don't get it, but I think there's something here, but I left, and
when you say you went back in, that didn't mean you went into the first year of theology, did it?
no, I
You had-
hadn't finished my
Philosophy.
finished my
year.
philosophy,
Okay. Wow.
and philosophy made no sense to me.
Yeah, I can see that would be
and,
just.
and it was okay. I just ended up getting a degree from the Josephinum, and I loved a number of the priests there. I thought they were very holy and saintly men, and I didn't lose my faith or anything. And I applied to major seminary, as the term goes. How I remember it, major seminary. So I came back east and was attending St. John's Seminary in Brighton, Massachusetts.
That's where I'm confused. Okay, I didn't know
Yeah.
the Josephina.
Yeah, And so I was only at St. John's for about 3 months.
And what were you studying?
Uh, Theology.
Theology.
Yeah.
How old were you?
I was 24.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why did you only last 3 months?
Well, that's
Because I felt like the spirit really wanted me to stay, but I just felt depleted, dead inside. I didn't have any place to go inside, and so what I did is I left, and I went to my home in Northfield, Vermont, and I went up to a friend that I had worked with at that state hospital, and I said, "Is Gail Kennedy still around?" And he said, "Yeah, she just checked into the psychiatric ward of the hospital." I said, "You're kidding?" And he said, "No." So I drove up to that hospital. I'm 24 years old, and I knock on the door. It's a locked unit, and the young nurse comes out and says, "What do you want?" And I said, Is this the unit that Gail Kennedy's on?" And she says, "Yes, what do you want?" And I said, "Well, I'm her spiritual director, and I'd like to see her."
Were you in clerics?
I was not in clerics. I was in street clothes, but I did have a cleric picture in my wallet, and I did show it.
That's the confusing part. I thought you went in with clerics on. Okay, that's
No.
good to.
No, that would be like impersonating.
Well, it depends. You're, yeah. So you didn't wear clerics in the seminary back then.
And at St. John's, you did wear clerics,
Okay.
but I had left.
And mom, what happened when you seen him knock on the door?
oh my gosh, I died. I just died. Um, so he came in and we talked for a little while, and I think you said what was a turning point for me, and Dad was a turning point for me, and so that was my last day in a hospital for depression. I actually met with the doctors shortly thereafter. I'd been there for a little bit, and they said, "You know what?" Because I'd been diagnosed manic depressive, and I wasn't, and they just said, "Look, we think you're okay." Took me off all my medication, made me angry for a bit because that would be normal, and just said, "We think you're all right, and you don't need anything." So when I left there, which was all the right thing, I never looked back. I never had another depressive episode. I was off all medications, and that was the beginning for me of turning my life around, and it was my late 20s.
Oh, there's a lot to be said. Hopefully, people are listening that have these, because we're in a culture now where it's a wound or it's a depression or it's a trauma or something, and that's it forever, and you're kind of like marked. I'm not denying that there are people who've had some really bad traumatic experiences in their life, but I mean, from what you were telling me, I mean, yeah, you were having, like, you were hitting rough patches. You met the wrong guys, and it's just a bout of, like, yeah, like powerful depression. But to pump you up with pills and kind of diagnose you for the rest of your life is a different story. Because then Dad walks in, and all of a sudden you forget about your depression, and I haven't known you as a depressed person.
Oh, praise
From what I've
God.
known you as.
Literally.
Yeah, I know. You didn't know what school I went
I didn't
to
know you
either.
were. I didn't know you were checked in for manic depression either.
No. And I mean, I did
that-
have, in all honesty, I did overdose, attempted suicide. And so, and was treated so badly at the emergency room. It's just not a good experience.
Okay.
And got through that all right. But so there were some rough patches along the way, but it all has it turned around. And when Dad and I, when we got together, I was hungry. There was an emptiness inside of me. And my last visit with my psychiatrist, he was such a peculiar person. He always wore these big boot bow ties, and he was a really not likable guy. And I said, look, you know what? I have an emptiness inside of me. I'm empty. There's something I want. There's something I'm missing. I'm yearning for something. And he said, well, I don't have a magic wand that I could just tap, tap, tap you on the head. And I thought, no kidding, you don't. And I just said, I never went back there. But it was the Lord, and I think that was part of my attraction to Dad, because he was in the seminary. And I remember asking him to teach me how to say, I couldn't remember any of my prayers. And I don't think you did, though. You didn't teach me.
Well, that's a whole other story. But when I did when I was allowed on the floor, because I showed my picture ID with clerics on, and she didn't know how to say no to that. And I don't feel guilty about that, and I don't feel like I
You
was
shouldn't.
being bad, because I just walked on the unit, and Mom was so shocked and embarrassed to see me, because it's not like I called and asked or anything. And we talked very briefly, and I just kissed her on the forehead, and I said, "It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay." And I left. And really, that's the rest is history, so to speak. Our trials weren't over. It wasn't bliss for 43 years, but it was felt really.
You say
right.
43 years because you're obviously married in the church for 43 years.
We're married in the church for 40 years.
Mom, okay, 40 years.
Yeah, we had a pagan wedding first
Oh, okay.
with
You're-
a justice of the peace from the Burning Bush hardware store, which was kind of religious.
The Burning Bush hardware store.
That's right. The guy closed his shop for 40 minutes so he could marry us.
But he had like a pastoral ministry in a hardware store.
No,
he
he
was
had
a
the-
justice of the peace.
Oh, okay.
He could have.
Yeah.
And so you got married. That's fine. Like
So that it would
civilly,
be 3 years till
Civilly.
we could get our annulment, my annulment.
because you're waiting for your first marriage annulment.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And it was, that was a long trial.
3 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he fought it, and he wasn't practicing at all, but knew it was important to both of us. And so, and then we went to the next court up, which was in Springfield, Massachusetts, and then it was upheld. And so we had a priest friend who said, "Come here tonight to the rectory. I'm going to marry the two of you, and you'll have a legitimate, it'll be a bona fide marriage in the church, because this one's going to be going to Rome." And if it does, it'll be 20 years before you get to see your annulment.
Yeah, I mean,
So
we
we
would
did.
be unavailable because we were abstaining from the sacraments. Because
You knew to abstain from the sacraments.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
nobody knows that nowadays.
yeah, and we had one priest that said, if they send that to Rome, you're going to have a problem. You have to make a decision what you're going to do. Live without sacraments for your married life. So
All right, and you guys decided to get together and get married and living. What were you doing, Dad? Because you didn't have a job. I mean, you were just coming from seminary, and before you were
right,
coming
right.
from.
But being raised on a farm, I had many skills. I didn't have a lot of academic skills, but I had construction skills and how to work skills. And so I went into commercial construction and did construction jobs for the first 5 years.
And that was enough to support Mom
Well, we weren't rich, but
and Heather and Matt.
yeah, and Joseph and
Which,
Patience
I mean,
came
by the way,
along.
I've obviously been born, and every time I say how many are in my family, I say 14. I was born into Heather and Matt. So, like,
Yeah.
I didn't, like, vaguely remember things, but I mean, I've always really just seen Heather and Matt as my oldest brothers and sisters. Maybe there's people who have stepbrothers. That
No,
word
we-
didn't
yeah,
even,
we
I didn't know
never-
what that word meant.
Right, we just,
Yeah.
she came up with the term Biff for her biological father, because that's what biological father, because would not even refer to him as her father, because he was a really
was
bad
not a
Heather
nice
called
person.
Michael Biff.
yeah,
Biff, yeah.
yeah.
Biff.
Yeah, and Samuel, your brother Samuel, was in his first year of college, and he had to write an autobiography for a paper, and he discovered that Matthew and Heather were not his biological siblings, having that paper reviewed by a professor.
This is in Trivium.
No, this is at a Magdalen, because
Oh my gosh, you went to college.
the professor knew
Matt.
Heather and Matthew because they went to Magdalen, and
That's so
then
funny.
Samuel went to Magdalen.
Look, I mean, I can understand where Samuel would do that. I would be the same.
Yeah, we
Well, I
did. It
think
was never
for
our
us too,
language.
because we were just a family.
It was never, yeah.
It
Right.
was never
Right.
our language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. I mean, do you think so? I mean, it's just the rest is history, obviously. But I mean, for people, maybe just for clarity's sake, and myself as well, because I'm
Because I
learning.
feel confused, and
I'm learning a lot of things as well.
Yeah, yeah.
There's there's 9 boys and 5 girls in the family.
Yes.
That's correct.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying now,
Right.
Mom, you had an openness and generosity. I don't think it was something that you guys sat down and contemplated insofar as you just lived life. My memories growing up is that we always had anything. I don't have a consciousness of being poor. We were poor, but I don't have that kind of like consciousness of
No, we were very poor.
being starving. Let's
And
say.
and I don't know how intentional I was, except I had to have been intentional. But somewhere along the way, and perhaps this is kind of left over from my childhood, but we just made things a game and lighthearted. So we don't have clothes from the store, but we had clothes from bags, and people gave us bags of clothes all the time, and we just referred to it as, I said, we're going shopping today, and we got a bag of clothes and picked in to see what we could use. And it wasn't until several years later, Heather actually came to me one day and she said, I can't believe you said that was going shopping. I said, what? She said, shopping is when you go to a store like a mall and you get clothes. And I'm like, okay, But it's like, no one really, everything was, even from meals. We had more venison given to us, and I was always pregnant. I couldn't stand venison; just made me sick.
Well, it was very gamey.
Yeah. Oh, very.
When I had
gamey.
venison here, I didn't
Yeah.
recognize it, but I think our venison was just very gamey. You just have
It
to
is, it is
a lot of
gamey.
people like that gamey taste,
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
They
Well,
kinda
we would
see
just
it's the
be
natural.
creative with it.
Well, I mean, there's a lot to be said to that. That's very
Yeah.
counter-cultural because it is a culture of shopping and buying. We go to these charity shops here still. Myself and Paula Christian went there the other day looking for shoes, and that's where we get our stuff. But I noticed like it's full of women's clothes, and then the men's section is always smaller. And someone explained it to me just because women are always shopping, and they're always changing their clothes, whereas men just have something and they're kind of fine with it.
Yeah.
That's why the women like the charity shops. But there's something to be said about this need to buy. But I mean, if we were to go to a lot of places in the world right now, I don't think they'd be living that same culture.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a problem with our culture when they judge us, and they look back on us that we're obsessed with shopping and buying. Where there's a lot to be said with raising a family that's so large, and maybe people who needed to be going shopping. In our case, we weren't, and we were fine.
Well, and also, really, we had no choice. I don't know if we would have, but we had no choice because things are that tight.
Well,
So,
it's good to hear that
Yeah.
you can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think people are going to stop shopping after listening to that, but I
No,
mean,
we just everything.
maybe refrain.
It seems to me, I'm sure it's not everything was magical because I know we had trouble paying the bills, but anyway, it was.
Well, this country, I've seen pictures, very old pictures of like 9-year-old boys wearing dresses, and it was just because the hand-me-down, like his older sister was the hand-me-down, and I was told that that's not true, that didn't happen, but
Oh.
I've seen pictures.
Not
like, it's
from
just-
our family.
No, in Ireland.
Okay.
Someone can probably correct me, but I'm pretty sure I've seen that picture. Just
Yeah.
if they're hand-me-downs, like, but
Yeah.
you don't have older brothers or sisters, so you're wearing a dress.
Yeah, but back in the United States, I mean, our secondhand stores are rich in quality of
Well,
clothing.
they are.
Yeah, there's a lot of quality clothing.
Well,
that
there's
is
a lot of wealth.
secondhand.
And there's a
There
lot
is.
of waste, and I
Yes.
hope people. I'm not doing this like green kind of tirade right now, but I just think it's so wasteful. And
Yeah.
you were in Mexico for a bit, Dad. I was in Ecuador as well, and I guess you just have to live in a place where to kind of just. In Ave Maria, they would have bin bags, just big garbage bags of all the food that the students would just throw out, and they would line it up against the wall. And I think it was every week. I don't know if it was the same thing with Nia when you were there, but every week they would weigh these bags and they'd say how many pounds of food they're throwing away, and then they would show something like some picture of Immokalee, which is a half an hour, 40 minutes from us. Immokalee was really poor. It was crazy because you're living but it didn't do anything. Nobody changed. Like, it wasn't. They would still put the food on their plate. They'd sit down, they'd chat, they'd pick at it, and then they would throw it into the thing. I don't know if we're gonna get a wake up call at some stage, but it is sad to see. But anyways, so Dad, you mentioned before that you were kind of there was animosity. I don't know how if animosity is the word, but to your dad because he said, "All right, your brother should be in prison, and there's free range. You go out whenever you want. There's no curfew." And then you're like, "Oh, how come Dad's not putting boundaries?" I'm just thinking of parents that would be listening to this. There's parents that are probably getting grilled because they're being too strict, or like, you know, or that's an interesting one. How come you didn't put boundaries and you're giving out? What would you say as far as parenting goes when it comes to controlling or being too lax? Because you guys raised 9 boys and 5 girls.
Yeah, I always affirmed mom with her boundaries. She was very clear and very tight with boundaries. And for me, I also longed for time with my dad. My dad worked very hard supporting our family of 11 children, and I know that work is essential, and sometimes it takes that away. But I tried very hard, and we as a couple always valued being together at home and being present. And my work, a good deal of it, was at home, trying to maintain animals and my carpentry projects and building our home because we built our own home and cleared the land and all of that we did as a family. Um, so I think boundaries are essential. Boundaries are the embrace of love, and time is also the embrace of love.
And Dad was very supportive of me, um, which was great. But he was a lollipop.
Oh, you were, yeah.
Oh man,
But you
yeah.
need that. You can't have two bad cops.
No, of course.
No, and I like
Just-
the positive stuff.
yeah, oh, yeah, you really do.
There's
So
no wait till dad gets home. It was
no,
the restaurant spoon. If I don't know if mom wants to explain what
no,
that is.
that was all right. Very unfair. Very
That
unfair.
was a real thing
The
that
reason,
exists.
all right. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you did this. But anyway, it's true because the restaurant spoon was an out of control mother, me, and it was primarily because we had brought a young child into our life. We were foster parents, and he was awful. I mean, he was beautiful, but he was unattached, which was before the diagnosis of unattachment. And he was just, I mean, he was doing so many things that I knew that he was doing. And I try to say to Dad that, Fern did this. He did this. We have a dead animal here. We'd have, all kinds of really horrendous things. I was cooking in the kitchen once, looked out, saw, there's a fire truck going up the road. And I thought, oh my gosh, he did that. Whatever's burning, he did that. And so, of course, Dad thinks I'm mental. It turns out he did. He lit a barn on fire
On Mother's Day.
on Mother's Day. So he was. It was a very challenging time for us, and it wasn't until I sat in my chair. We used to have side by side chairs at the dining room table, and we'd have all the kids, and I'd sit down, and my chair crashed to the ground, and I looked up at Dad, and I started crying, and I said, "Fern did this," and Dad looks at me like, "Poor woman." Poor woman. And he's gonna teach me, Gail, we heat with wood. It's just the glue that came undone. He takes the chair, he turns it over to show it to me, and he sees the saw marks. And that actually was a good thing that happened because that was the beginning of getting some serious help. We had this young man did move out of our life. He moved to a special place in Colorado that he could get attention. And so I was frazzled. And I think if you meet a mom of an unattached child, I have instant empathy
It's
because,
important. And you've come over and I've seen you talk to people about fostering, and that's a whole nother can of
right,
worms. I mean,
right.
we could touch on that. I was going to ask you a question about attacks and stuff, but we don't, I mean, we can ask you that later.
Well, I just
Look,
wanted,
I mentioned the restaurant spoon as it was a bit of a slag, but like a jokey thing. But I look in my mind,
did you say slag? Is that slang for joke?
sorry, it's like, yeah, it was a bit of a,
Oh, it's
there's
really,
humor behind it.
yeah, but for me, there's
For
no
the
humor.
restaurant, but listen, the restaurant spoon for me is if myself, Joseph, or Patience, the other three, if we did something really bad, we would go into the bathroom, put our hands on the bathtub, and mom was going to spank us with a giant spoon. I was thinking it was meant to
And
serve a big pot, right? For
Yeah,
like
yeah.
500 people. Is that why it's a restaurant
yes.
spoon?
It was big.
Yeah, it was like a shovel.
Yes.
And do you know the rest of that story?
I think that that's a good thing.
Well,
I have a parenting kind of role insofar as like we're padres, like we're
yes, but
fathers. So like when I hear young parents and the kids running around, he's grabbing stuff and he's like, and they're like, oh, they're running after him. It's like, look at that would never have happened with us
but
because there's certain look, and I know the whole thing with corporal punishment, especially in the country we're in, like
well,
this country did go to an extreme,
but the thing is, Luke,
but
is
there has to be
that Father Luke, corporal punishment doesn't work anymore because of the whole culture has shifted. You
yeah.
know, it doesn't work
Well,
anymore.
like a spanking is like.
Well, I
Would you
mean, I'm not.
agree?
Right.
I didn't spank you
Did
guys.
Andre get spanked?
He
His
did
whole
not.
life.
Did not.
He
I
did
no.
not his
Can
whole
I just
life.
say something? Because here's the other thing with restaurant spoon, and I don't know why you don't know this, but eventually what would happen is I would teach the kids to put their hands like this against their butt, and it would just spank.
I look at that was
I
the
would
other
just spank their
generation. Probably
hand.
that was
Right.
probably Samuel and Paul and John's.
The next four.
Ours was if we moved the hands before it came down,
Oh,
it was probably gonna be
look.
another one.
Oh, this is
Had to
so
be
unfair.
had to be on the bathtub.
All right.
But
But
anyways, listen.
All right,
the
we've
point,
I'm
got to,
saying it as
no,
I'm saying it as I think.
we can't argue live.
we have to clarify something though.
I know.
So the good news about having an unattached child and going through all of that and me being heartbroken when I put my head on the table on the bed every night for my children is that I learned a lot, and what we learned about was there's how to raise children, and we learned how to raise children by giving them choices and by raising to them to be responsible young adults. And we had from a very young age we used to go, uh-oh.
Oh man,
Yeah.
remember that?
And that was just like, so if the baby's throwing their food on the ground, uh-oh, you know, it's just baby down. And so or some crying and screaming out of control was, you know, I can't control the crying, but I can say where it's going to happen. So, you know, do you want to go outside or do you want to go into this room down the hallway to do your crying? So, you know, your power or my power. So we learned a way to parent where we could give choices. And so because kids need to feel that they have an owner, you know, that they're part of it, because control is a science and it's an art. And if you want to have control in your family, you got to know the science and how to give the kids choices. Like,
Yeah.
what do you want to wear this morning? You know, and if they pick out the most outrageous outfit, that's okay. I can live with that. You know, that gives them a feeling of empowerment.
Unless it's a dress and it's not a hand-me-down.
Well, I never had to worry about that, but I did have to worry about
Maybe there are people that are
your
kind of
boys,
concerned.
the boys wearing your pants down.
Yeah, I remember that.
I did not do that.
That was our, yeah, the low and baggy kind of
Yeah, I said
stage.
you could wear that, but it had to be so many inches
1990s.
from your
Right.
belly button.
Yeah, we don't have to go into that.
Oh, you're right.
You
Right.
don't have to go into any of that stuff. It's not
No,
edible.
but look, I'm sorry. I mentioned it because I do look. There's young parents
Right.
and kids are out of control, and there's so many battles, which we didn't have, which they have now. I think the whole phone thing. I'm always saying to them, there's battles that you can lose that are
Right.
probably
Yeah.
not. You're not going to die over on that hill about that battle. I'm trying to think of an example of something, but that's not too important. But then not to give him a phone until he's and then 16, 17, 18.
Yeah.
That's a very hard battle right now for them to be fighting. And then when it comes to the younger ones, I mean, I guess the corporal punishment it's cultural as well. Like you say that to an Indian family, a Filipino family, there's things that have still been carried on despite cultures changing because there's just certain things that little kids don't do and don't get away with and they learn. Now, I'm not saying like, battering them. I mean, like I said, there's a very there are extremes, especially in this country, that you could have really gotten it
Well,
bad.
we could
Um,
have a conversation about it at some point, but I don't think it's necessary anymore to spank, but it is necessary to have very good boundaries and to be willing to follow through on it.
Interesting.
Because a lot
Okay.
of times parents said they don't want to follow through because why? They want their child to be happy. Everybody wants their child to be happy. Of course, we all want our children to be
Okay.
happy, but you have to be willing to pay a price tag, your own price tag, which is, you're going to have to suffer through it a little bit. Like you have somebody like who's got to do a chore, and when do you think you can have that chore done by? Oh, yeah, Mom, yeah, I'll have it done. I'll have it done by such and such an hour on such and such a day. I said, okay. Day comes, not done. Oh, it's not done. So, guess I can't drive you to soccer practice today
Yeah, okay, that's
because
it.
I'm
That's not arbitrary.
I've got to go do something,
Okay.
else, and
Yeah,
they
you can,
scream and cry, and I can ignore that.
that's the follow through that's
But that's a
uncomfortable.
price tag.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So.
But look, I didn't mean to bring it up in a bad sense,
No, no,
The
no,
restaurant
no,
spoon. I think it's
Oh,
endearing at this
oh, I
stage.
think this
no.
whole interview is very endearing.
And dad's referred to as a lollipop was like, there's no wait till your father gets home. But I mean, there were a couple things that did set you off. Um,
Tattoos.
yeah, no, but no one ever did get one except for Samuel, which is justified, I think. Samuel's.
He waited until he was 18.
No, but it's Susanna Hope like that. Well, the cross actually.
The
No,
cross.
no, you're right. I think the Susanna Hope one was justified. The cross one threw me off because I didn't get a tattoo because of out of you and like what you
Yeah.
said. So when I saw Samuel, I did have a word with him, and I didn't think that one was fair. His cross, but I do think Susanna Hope one was beautiful.
Right. And we can't really talk about any of the kids by name.
Yeah, we can. I think Samuel's fine. Uh, Dad, you kind of were the good. Well, I guess good cop, bad cop. If that is, you kind of were. That was. I did see your role, but you did make it very clear, and I did remember this always that if there was any mocking, I remember someone had a friend over, and there was a bit of acne, and like the boys, we were laughing at that, and I mean, you smelt it out right away, and you were very, very serious and very clear on that was not to be done. And I remember that there was a couple of nicknames that we did have for, especially if it was for one of the girls in the family, and you came down very hard on that as well. Those stuck with me always. I'm not saying that it rooted it out of me. It's the lowest sense of humor, so it's like the easiest sense of humor is to kind of pick someone and kind of pick on them. But to this day, it's there. Like as far as kind of feeling sympathy. You did have. I remember you had something with Uncle Patrick. I think he had. Was it Uncle Patrick or one of your brothers who suffered from like boils or something on his face? And
Yeah.
that kind of marked you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was probably the most Christian thing I ever felt in my heart is I asked God to take my brother's boils and put them on my body because I felt so sad for him. But the Lord never did.
Well, he did give you that compassion, and you did definitely transmit it. At least to me, I
Yeah,
felt it
yeah.
very strong. And I am not gonna lie, I was always kind of mortified with the sharing household, as you guys say, when we would share our household. We were just talking about it the other day. It's probably 20, it's 27 plus years of sharing, which anybody who would be listening, following this, to say, well, why, if you had 14 kids, why would you share your household with another person? I mean, there's a lot of things that we did that broke human logic. But looking at it now, and I think it is from a faith perspective as a priest now and a religious, it is it's kind of the wisdom of the cross. St. Paul talks about the wisdom of the cross that the world will be incapable of ever understanding. So if my house is full, my budget is tight, uh, it, it's not really wise to bring in a person. Well, maybe the budget one is actually. Maybe that's not a good example. But to bring in another person, into the house, it is, for me, looking at it now, I don't know what your motives were, but it has changed to more of it is like another sign of compassion and giving them a different
I
life.
think because seeing as we met at the state hospital and we had this experience with people who were dual diagnoses, developmentally disabled, mental illness, it just it made sense to, because it was our crowd, people that we knew, and so the first person that we shared our life with was a young man who he came with us on our honeymoon with the Burning Bush hardware store guy, because he had moved in with me before Dad and I actually got married. He was that was the beginning, and so I think somebody has lived with us almost all the time, but it has taken a toll on some of the kids.
It was hard for me. I'm not
Yeah.
talking about wounds right now
No,
or trauma.
no,
I don't have
but I
any
mean,
right.
it's taken a toll because it's such a different lifestyle,
Yeah.
and now it's taking a little bit of a toll as we're transitioning. I'm older, and so Clet's been with us for 27 years,
27.
and Nick's
Yeah.
been with us for 13 or 14 years, and so I'm in a little bit of a kind of a growing through this myself. So
Why don't you guys just get an RV and go with Andre and just sell the house and travel around the country?
I could do that for 3 days.
Just sell everything, forget everything. You have no more responsibilities before God. He says, "Well done, good and faithful servants. You guys did your but
but we do
take
have a
Dre,
responsibility.
go around the country, get in an RV,
Who's going to take care?
visit all the shrines and
Really, Father, who's going to take care of Nick and Colette?
Antonia.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying it. I mean, half like just,
No.
but don't you think it gets to a point where you can sign
Well,
off,
I, I,
retire?
I don't see it that way at all.
We are retired.
Yeah, we said that about 5 years ago, um, that we're retired. And then we did the exact same thing the next moment, the next day, and every day after that.
I think we're both trusting in God right now to
Absolutely.
let us know what the future is and
And
what
he
that's
will.
going to look
Yeah,
like.
no,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm joking.
And the lesson I had to learn 45 years ago, 50 years ago. I mean, what is God's word? You want to be a disciple to Jesus Christ. Okay, that's good. There's, the battle with self, the battle with the world, and what is service. And for me, I think that was put right in front of me, is to care for people that are marginalized. I find it easy.
Well, it's like a married version of Saint Mother Teresa of Calcutta. I mean, in a lot of ways, you can give or take, like with the example, but I mean, she was plugged in the whole time. You did this to me. That was like her rule of five. You did this to me. And so every person that she would come across, I mean, she obviously saw Christ in that person. It's not a cliche. It's just such an extreme reality to be able to live that. And I think our Lord he's gonna welcome you guys in, and he's probably gonna show you him. You know, you'll probably see Colette transformed into Jesus, and you're just your first, I don't know, like 100 years of eternity. You're just watching all these videos of you dealing Jesus, with Jesus, and it's running the race as well. You have to keep running the race. That's what St. Paul tells us as well. We haven't made it yet. You know, I think there's certain people that aren't allowed really, just for the caliber of the gifts that he's given. I mean, he has given you both like tremendous gifts and tremendous graces. Just starting that with your active contrition grace. That's very powerful. And to kind of respond to those graces, I think you both have, and I think he's given you that spiritual energy just to keep one day and just to keep running till you get to the finish line, which who knows when that's going to be. But I'd like to go to Rome, and see you guys both be canonized. That would be nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like all my children praying to get me out of purgatory.
Yeah, I know that's a dangerous thing. Yeah, I take that back. We do have to.
No, but I'm just
We have to pray.
serious. The humanity and the sanctity in humanity, to be broken and not to quit, and to be broken and dare to look up, and be broken and just keep on keeping on, is what ties us together, I think.
Yeah, well, we haven't mentioned the sacraments. I know. I mean, firsthand, seeing you guys bring us to confession, seeing you guys go to confession, seeing you guys. That, in far as I'm concerned, I don't remember missing Sunday Mass. I don't remember that being a negotiable, like something
Yeah,
that we
that
would
was
sit down and say,
non-negotiable.
we can't make it this Sunday. I don't have any memory of that. I do hear it a lot, and I hear it in good families that I would be surprised to hear it in, because they were traveling or something happened and it didn't happen. Like if we were to be traveling or something, you guys would have probably looked ahead of time to see if there's going to be a possibility. In my memory, I don't remember missing a Sunday Mass. So I mean, that hasn't been spoken about, but I think it's a given that you guys have had a strong sacramental life. And I think if it wasn't for the sacraments, you would probably be separated. Yeah, I don't think you would have been able to make it.
No.
I'm not just saying because I lived with you guys, but I've just seen too many married couples that don't avail of the sacraments, and therefore their sacrament of marriage is undermined and weakened. And see, they all kind of go together. It's one vine, and they slowly
I think
start.
I think one of the testimonies is that of all of our 14 kids, everybody still goes to church.
Except one.
Well, he goes, which one?
Well, we don't have to say that name actually.
I'm just
Right.
saying.
That's the
No,
name
but
we
Just
I'm
would.
like
saying, but
the
actually, he
just
Catholic
does.
beat
Church
He
in
that.
the
does.
world
It
at
may not.
large
It
to
may not
know.
be. Most everybody goes every single Sunday. What? Well, okay.
Okay, thank you.
You know what? I think. All right.
No, that's true. I actually I meditate on that a lot, and great gratitude that our greatest evangelization is our own family, and
Right, and I'm not saying that as a. It's not a point of pride or anything. It's just a.
no
It
gratitude.
touches my heart because even the one that doesn't come all the time comes.
Yeah,
And so, if we didn't have the Lord, then, boy, I don't know where we would be.
no, there's no reasoning without
Yeah.
the Lord.
Yeah, no, that's a given.
That's a given. There's man in
Well,
black.
I was just gonna bring something up, but that would be kind of a different vein. I won't go down that vein, and maybe we'll just have we can end it here, unless you guys had last comments. It's great to see you in person. You guys were here for almost a week. Um, you came at a time when Ireland had very nice weather. It's back to Irish weather, but the consequences of the nice weather are still here. So like brown fields. So
Yeah,
you'll have to
yeah.
come back down when it's lush and green. But I appreciate everything, and I just try to do this so that people can kind of maybe get something and get some kind of inspiration. You don't have to say anything inspirational, but like the fact that it's been lived sometimes is enough for someone to have like a light turn on,
Yeah.
and you
I
never
would
know.
I would just like to say, as an end note, that that I attribute everything uh, to I do have a deep love for God that's given, but my lived love is love I have for my wife, and and the fruit of that is the great love and the great presence and the abyss of mystery in our children that is it's just unbelievable. We had no idea what greatness we were partaking in, creating, co-creating, and living with. But it was the sacrament of matrimony, the sacrament of saying I do to the most opposite creature I could have ever imagined, to myself. And it all turned out to be a gift because the opposites came together and we made a whole.
Well,
That's,
yeah, but that's a good. I think that
I think that's.
yeah, you can't
I
really
think
say
that's
more
great.
than that. We're gonna end it on that. Thanks, Dad, for that.
do you
That
want
was
to say
beautiful.
something?
Yeah, go ahead.
That
I don't.
it was my handsomeness or anything?
Well, we can end it on that. Thanks everybody for tuning in on this. This was beautiful. Appreciate that, Mom and Dad. And look, this isn't a thing about views and going viral. It never has been. We work kind of with the spirit here. So I do have people who've told me that you guys, it's something about you that kind of moves them. Like I said, we're not orchestrating. There's nothing scripted here. It's just something about the reality. So praise God for that. And with that, we'll end with a prayer in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
Beginning is
The Lord be with you. May Almighty God bless you, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Thanks, guys. And hopefully, please God, we'll see more of this. If there's any questions or things that we didn't touch on, you can just let us know, and maybe we'll have a part two. Not live, but from everybody's place where they're going to be. So God bless, and we'll see you next Monday.